Hi, I'm Stephen Ham from Archery Supplies. Today we're going to look at the Oneida Kestrel. Now the Oneida Kestrel is the bow used in the Arrow TV series. And why did they pick this? Because it looks cool? Is it because you can shoot it with fingers? I don't know. They originally started off with a recurve and then they went to this, and I think they chose this bow because it looks cool. It's got a cool function, the way these limbs work. It works on a lever system. Most bows work on a cam system, so it's using cams to draw down the limbs. This is using this here, this curve is actually a lever, and it's using leverage to lever this limb here. This is the actual limb, the little square thing here, the straight thing, the square thing. So this here is just a lever, and this is the actual limb. So you're actually using a lever to force this down. Now what this enables you to do is shoot with fingers. With a normal compound bow, if you twist your hand when you shoot, or if you jerk the shot when you're shooting fingers, you can actually force the string straight off the cams. If you apply torque when you shoot the bow, you can pull the string off the cams, called a derail. So it's very critical, especially on modern compound bows with 90% let off, that you shoot them with release aid. And you're going to say, well, you can shoot with fingers. Yes, you can if you're very careful, and it depends on the bow. Bows today have got shorter, higher let-offs, and it's almost impossible to shoot with fingers, those bows. There are some compound bows made specifically for finger shooting. But the Oneida bow, you cannot derail because it's on the lever system here. It's on these limbs. Now, back when this bow was made, this bow would retail at $2,000. It's 41 inches, tip to tip, and there's a storm outside. It is blowing. Original Oneidas that were made was the Oneida Aero Force. That was either 47 inches axle, 49 inches. It took me a while to remember the name. This is 41 inches axle, which means for finger shooting, this is going to create more finger pinch on your fingers. It's going to cause your fingers to jam down. So ideally, longer is better for finger shooting. But you can shoot this bow with fingers or with a release aid. Now, Oneida is famous for bow fishing, which is short distance, and they're looking for probably more compact, and hence the design. Now, with the Oneida system, you have two cams here. With the original Aero Force, these cams were in the middle here. And what they've done, they've split them to the side, so basically forming a yoke to the side here. So it's a dual yoke. The original one only had one, and it had a cable pulling down in the middle. It has a timing cable which runs down the center. Now there should be virtually no tension on this cable here. To change the draw length, you've got 4 modules you replace. You unscrew this little screw here, and you pop out the module here. And that enables you to adjust the let off or the draw length. To adjust the poundage in this bow, you have to loosen this little orange screw at the top, and what that does, it locks this timing system in here. So when you're shooting, it's locked in place. When you're adjusting the poundage, you loosen this bolt off, and it basically keeps the tension off these timing cables. So there should be equal tension on both these timing cables. If you unscrew this bolt here, this should not move. Now when you adjust the poundage on the Oneida, these cams will move in and out based on the pressure on these limbs. And what you do is you measure the distance from there to there, there to there, make it the same top and bottom, and then you lock it back into place if you're going to change the poundage. That simple. Now to replace the string on this bow, you need a Oneida bow press. And you're going to say, what's that? Well, do they still make them? I can't get them. So what I would use, I'd use some wood. I'd use some dowel in wood, and basically I'll show you what it looks like in the instruction manual. You pull the bow back and you put it in something which looks like that, because there's no tension on the bow at this, there's no tension on these limbs at this point in time, and then you can change the strings. Nice and simple, but you need to have this press in your shop or in your home if you're going to work on these bows. And that's really good for adjusting your peep sight. Let's say your peep sight rotation's out, that enables you to do that. Now if you don't have one, it's a real pain to work on one of these bows. Now in my shop I don't sell many Oneidas, so I actually don't have one set up, and it needs to be set up for the size of the bow. If you've got a 47-inch bow, it's no use having one of these for a 41-inch bow. Okay, so what made the Kestrel different from the Aeroforce? Let's start with that. This is a machine riser. The Aeroforce was a cast riser, and so was the other one, which was at that time, I think it was called the Phoenix. They also produced a machined riser. I think it was called the MR80, I think. And that was a machine riser, but it was quite heavy. This bow doesn't feel too bad in the hand, and let's just check the poundage of this bow. Okay, so I've got a grain scale, or a bow scale here. It says it weighs 4.67 pounds, which is not a bad poundage. There are some compounds heavier than this, and there's some compounds lighter. So ideally, as a beginner's bow, you want a lighter bow because you don't have the strength. But this bow is generally going to be shot just like this. What else is different? On the Oneida Aeroforce, the string stops, to stop the cams at full draw, you had a string stop fitted to the cams, which came and hit the riser here. On the Kestrel, you've got these things here which you move to adjust the let off or the stop. And what happens, this cam here comes and hits that stop there. So all you do is you rotate that top. I was going to say top and bottom, but they only have one on the top, which is interesting. They don't have one on the bottom. Oh yes they do, sorry. They have one there. And do you know what's interesting about this? See the position of this one? It's pointing in towards the limb stop. This one's pointing down, so they're clearly not set, which is interesting. Now, I never sold this bow to the customer. The customer brought this bow in and said, would you like to buy it? And these bows are pretty unique, so I was like, yeah, look, I'll buy it because I think it will sell quite easily. He fitted limb savers, these little rubber things to the limbs. I haven't seen those fitted before, and he fitted other ones to there. The outboard limbs, this is called an outboard limb. In the original Aeroforces were a wood laminate. They changed to this plastic or fiberglass or whatever material this is here. It's a bit more tinny. Back in the day we used to put rubber and silencers in here to stop the slap. The Kestrels, they fitted these rubber bands here, and you can see that how much is pulling these cables in, which means this bow's pretty light. Now I want to talk about whether you're going to shoot this bow with fingers or a release aid. Now if you're going to shoot with fingers, you need the arrow rest to be supported from the side, because when you shoot with fingers, i.e. like this, the arrow moves away from your fingers. So the arrow moves away from the bow like this. If you're going to shoot with a release aid, the arrow shoots dead straight. Now I'm not sure how the person who I brought this bow from shot, whether it was fingers or release aid, because he had a bow doodle arrows which drops away, but there was no D-loop fitted to the string, so I don't know if you're shooting with fingers or not. But you definitely don't want an arrow rest which falls away like this for finger shooting, because generally if you apply tension to your fingers, that arrow rest will drop away when you're ready to shoot. That's not ideal. You want something that supports the arrow rest from the side, and we're going to set this up for fingers and for release aid and have a couple of shots and see what this thing shoots like. Manuals here, it doesn't actually say what module is what draw length or what let off. So I'm completely clueless, which makes it really, really hard. Most Oneidas and the RPM range bows say which module you fit to achieve what draw length and what let off. And they'll generally come with like 9 sets of modules. Now I'm pretty sure you can still buy these modules online, so I don't know if it's a problem or not, but yeah, if you want less let off or more let off, I'm pretty sure you can still buy those, because Oneida are still made, and there are people who make after parts for Oneida. So like you can buy coloured cables here if you want, like reds or blues. There's people who make grips for them. So okay, so why do you want an Oneida over a normal bow? One's the finger shooting ability, one because it looks cool and it's different, and it's also a smoother draw than a normal compound. So a normal compound will lump over. This is much smoother. Now generally not as quick in the shot, but if I'm going to, let's just draw this bow back. So this starts off kind of light, it's building up here. and then it kind of stops here. Now he's actually got, the person who I brought this from has got basically no let off with the modules he's fitted to this bow. So I think he would have been shooting with fingers for this bow. If I was shooting release age, you'd be shooting some more tension, but I think he was shooting fingers. When you shoot fingers, you want tension because you want this thing to come out of your fingers. If you're shooting 90% let off, and let's say you're shooting a 50-pound bow with 90% let off, you're only holding 5 pounds. So when you let go of that string, it's going to go everywhere. With finger shooting, you want to be holding weight because you want that string to come out as straight as possible out of the shot. So with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wind this bow up. You can see it's wound down. This is a 50 to 70 pound bow. Now at the moment, I'm guessing this is set on 40. The other thing, I think, to me, it feels like this bow's out of time. So I'm going to show you how to time this bow. I'm going to show you what tool I use. It's very simple, so just give me a sec. Okay, so to time this bow, what you need is a metal ruler. Now, any measuring device will work, but this just makes your life easy. Now, if you're like me and you know nothing about the inch system, which I know nothing about, you use the metric system because it makes your life simple. And all you do is you measure the distance from there to the cam. Now, in this case, it is 5 centimeters. So from there to there, you can see 5 centimeters. I'm hoping that will show up there. Now down the bottom here, it is that 7? 7? 7? So this cam is set at 5 and this cam is set at 7. As I said, this guy didn't buy this bow from me. I'm not having a go at him. But generally when you buy a bow from a shop, you hope that the person selling the bow knows what they're doing. Now in my shop, I've got a bigger shop and I've got a whole bunch of people working here and they might never have worked with one of these. And it's always a risk that the shop owner or the person selling you the bow doesn't know how to work on it. But if you're watching this video, you've got to learn how to work on your own gear, so that's what I'm showing you. The distance from there to there and there to there needs to be the same. So what we're going to do is we're going to loosen off this bolt here, and then we're going to adjust the distance to get these two distances the same, and then we're going to lock it back in place. Nice and simple. And this is all going to be in time and it's going to shoot well. This would have felt like a dog to shoot, it would have shot like a dog, and he probably never shot it. And that's what happens. Which is very unfortunate. I know, I'm pretty sure this bow was purchased overseas, but if he brought it from my store, I would have been disappointed. That's probably the right word to look for. I mean, it happens, absolutely happens. But let's just get this bow in time and let's see what this bow feels like in time, and let's try that out. What you need is a set of Allen keys, and we're going to loosen this orange bolt up here. Now the reason you need to loosen this up, if I was just to change the poundage here, what it'll do is put more tension on one side of these cables than the other. And basically it'll stress the timing system and probably break the timing system. So, now this is all in the instructions, but it was, as I often say in my videos, guys don't read instructions. So I just loosen that there. Now I'm going to wind up. Now I don't know which way. I'm going to increase the poundage on this bow, so I'm going to wind it up. Now the top was at 5, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to wind up the top first off and see what happens to the poundage. See what happens to this timing here. And what's interesting, it's got little timing marks there to see if it was in time. He's going to hate me. I'm not saying who it is, because I actually don't know who it is. Right, so I'm winding the top one in, and it was at 5, and that's clearly brought in. So now what I'm going to do is wind up the bottom, and that should actually bring the bottom one in closer. So if the top one was 5, I don't know if you can see that moving. If the top one was 5 and the bottom one was 7, and probably means I need to get around 6. So now the top one is at, so I'm trying to do it on camera. Top one's still at 5, the bottom one's at 6.5, so I'm still going to do the bottom one more, I think. And this is the problem, I get confused when I'm doing it, which one I'm winding up and winding down. And just make sure if this gets locked into place, then the timing system will increase on one side, but this is, it's clearly moving, so. Right, so the top is now at 6, and I'll just show you that. The top's now at 6, and the bottom's at, is that 6? It's pretty close, it's before 6. And this one's before 6. I'm happy with that. Now normally I'd muck around with it a bit to get exact, but it looks pretty good to me. So let's just lock that off. So now we lock off, just check the timing. You can see there, it's nice and relaxed there. So this was clearly free moving. And we lock this back into place. And this bow's ready to go. Now I haven't adjusted the draw stop, so maybe we should do that while we're here. Now you're going to ask, when you've got to replace cams on this, the cables on this bow, is it a big deal? Well, I've done a video on that. You can do it without a bow press, which is good. So if you live in the country, you can do it yourself, but it does take time. And depending how quick you are and how lucky you are, how these things clip in, it could be anywhere from 10 minutes to an hour. So I always struggle when people come in with their bows and they go, oh, can you do work on this? And I'm like, how much is that going to cost? And I'm like, it's going to be $10 or $60. And I think, well, you know, it's such a big discrepancy. But then if you go and get some work done in your house, it's like, is it 1,000 or 2,000 or 5,000? So archery gear is still pretty cheap. So let's just try this. That feels so much better already. That feels so much better. It's like, it's now in time. It's a different bow. Okay, now the draw stops, are these actually touching the cams on the way through? Let's have a look. It's hard for me because I can't actually see them touching. I don't know if they are touching or not, so you need someone to help you with that, to see if they're touching or not touching. I couldn't actually see it, so generally you get someone, you'd move these forwards and they both hit at the same time. But I'm pretty happy. Oh, now why did they fit these? This was a silencer thing. I don't think it did much, to be honest. These are just bits of rubber. They'll probably perish over time. You can just stick some more rubber on. Peat tubing would probably do the same stuff. They're probably available for sale. Very, very simple. All right, let's set this up for fingers. Let's go and have a shot and see how well I shoot with it. Okay, so I've set up the Kestrel. I've put a little rest on. It's just a basic rest. Bolts on from the side. The rest I'd recommend for this bow would be the NAP center flipper, the NAP center rest. Bow Doodle, the one which kicks the weight of the sides, fine. Those types of rests I'd recommend for this bow. I'm struggling to think of any others. If you're shooting with fingers. If you're shooting release aid, then basically you can go for anything. Now drop away rests are going to be difficult with this because what are you going to attach it to? And some people are going to find ways to attach it to the cams and stuff. But for me, it's just too difficult. I'd just be going for a normal launcher style or a whisker biscuit. Keep life simple. So now I'm going to shoot this with fingers. Now when you're starting off, always start off close to the target. Otherwise, if you start off further back and something goes wrong, you'll put an arrow 6 foot up in the ceiling. And it wouldn't be the first time it's happened. So now I'm just shooting the VAP arrows. I'm going to just rotate my nock. Now the first thing I'm going to do here, I'm just rotating my nock so the odd fletch pointing away from the bow, is I'm going to work out where I'm going to aim. So let's just work that out. Now with recurve I aim under my jaw, but this would be more hunting, so I'm probably going to try and get this finger here in the corner of my mouth. Let's just see how that goes. There's no vibration at all when I shoot, like it's just dead. You can hear it makes a fair bit of noise. It's like a... Now, these bows were really popular back in the day for hunters. In fact, back when Oneida was big, most of the big game records were taken with Oneida. So I just held that in the corner of my mouth, I put the top pin on the target and went low. I'm going to go back a bit because I'm feeling pretty confident. I'm just going to aim, instead of aiming the top pin, I'm going to aim at the third pin. So thing with Oneida, I really like Oneida bows. They're unique. It's kind of like a recurve on steroids. Because it's so much faster, but yet, and it's not hitting my fingers, I've got no glove on. With a compound bow, you know, you've got to get your release aid out, you've got to, this you can just pull it back and shoot it, it's just easy. Like you just, and this is my thing, like you never see these come up secondhand. Well, in Australia they probably will come up on eBay in America, and even the old Aero Forces are fetching really good money. Back in the day I used to sell an Aero Force for 800 Australian dollars, which is about 500 American dollars. You'll find on eBay they're getting pretty good money for them secondhand, and these bows are like 30-40 years old now. So I just like how, like you can see I'm not putting much attention in, but it's just a fun bow to shoot. And part of me buying this bow was like, well, I'm really not going to probably see a second-hand one of these come in again. So it's like, even though it doesn't have all the modules, and I didn't know it didn't have all the modules when I brought it, it is still a cool thing to have. I kind of wish I still had my Oneidas. From when I used to shoot competition with them. But that's alright, they're all in the center. I'm not getting any arm slap, it's not hitting my arm. It's actually quite nice. I'm rather impressed with that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put Whiskey Biscuit on it, I'm going to put a D-loop on it, and I'm going to try it with the release aid. Okay, so I've put a D-loop on the string. Now I've kept the knocking points there. Do you need to take knocking points off? Look, I've shot competition with knocking points on and put a D-loop either side originally when D-loops first came in, because it held my arrow in place. These days they either use just normally a straight D-loop, or some people put serving in above and below. Why don't they use knocking points? I think it's just because of the weight. The weight of knocking points is more than serving, but you know, honestly, how much is it going to affect the speed of the bow? Not that much. So look, I don't think it's going to make much difference whether you had knocking points or none. I'm not shooting knocking points these days. I just put the D-loop straight in. I shoot fine. And I saw a survey done on different types of, you know, knotless D-loops and under D-loops and all that sort of stuff, and really there was no strong favourite of the way it should be done. Okay, so I've applied that, got the release aid, I've applied a Whiskey Biscuit to the string. Whiskey Biscuit, just shooting a back tension release aid. This is the Scott Ascent, which I've been using now for a bit. Let's see what this feels like. Now with this, my hand's going to be further down my face, so I'm going to shoot higher. So I'll definitely aim with the top pin a little bit lower on the target. That made so much more noise, like so much more noise, and you can see how much higher I went in the target. Basically I aimed below the blue and I went high in the target. I missed the target, but it went high. So but it makes so much more noise with a release aid. That's because the release aid's quicker, but boy, sound like a rocket going off. Now, with my back tension release aid and tuning release aid with this bow, and it's got low let off, I would definitely want to activate those draw stops to give that solid anchor at the end, because I can clearly feel that they're not activated for me. Sorry, I'll hit it this time. I aim at the one down the bottom. No knock came off, so let's have a look what happened. On that last shot, I've got no idea what came off. I thought a knock came off, but all my knocks were in the arrows. There was no arrow behind the target. I have no idea what happened, but I don't have the second camera running because the second camera wouldn't turn on. So overall, the Oneida Kestrel, a cool bow. With the low let off, I think it's hard to shoot with a release aid, but it can be done. Makes more noise. To quieten this thing down, you can put silencers on the string. I think these limbs here make more noise than the wood limb made, which is interesting. These are a pretty bulletproof bow. You don't have a lot of problem with them, which is why you see these bows which are 30, 40 years old for sale on eBay, because there's not a lot to go wrong with them. These limbs, the power limbs, aren't under a lot of tension. You can see they're basically dead straight. They're not under much tension until you pull the bow back. So that's why these limbs tend to last. The outboard limbs never really had too many problems with. The cables do have to be replaced, but very, very rarely. Timing cables, I don't think I've ever replaced a set of timing cables, ever. So overall, they're a pretty solid bow. They something different. If you see one sort of secondhand, you want to give it a go, then I think they're not a bad thing. And at the price point of around the 7, that's Australian dollars, 700 Australian dollars, that's like 400 American. I think these are a buy secondhand if you pick them up for around that price. And you're not going to lose much money when you go to sell them, because the person who brought it has already lost the money. But I think at that sort of price point, these are a pretty cool thing, especially for finger shooters, shooting bare bow. These are a pretty cool bit of gear, and they look pretty flashy. So I'm Stephen Ham from Archery Supplies. That's the Oneida Kestrel. I think it's pretty cool. I mean, it's not as quiet as a modern compound bow. I'm going to say probably not even as nice to shoot. The draw cycle is definitely smoother than a modern compound bow. So you can't even go to your local archery shop and check one out. But Oneida still do make bows, and RPM also do make lever bows. So you can check those ones out at your local archery shop, but not this one, not the Kestrel, because this has been now superseded. But it's kind of cool. Thanks for watching. Bye.